Awesome. Well, it's official now because I actually hit the recording. And we're at 101, so we can get started if you're ready.
Sure. Let me just switch off my phone to make sure that it doesn't come in the way here.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. It's my second time on the Blab with the Blab environment. It's very different. It's pretty cool. And
it's pretty cool. Great.
All right, we're locked in. I've locked the seats. My friend Morgan is telling me to lock everyone else out. All right, good. So let's go ahead and get started in a very new environment for me. We were just talking about Blab. I hope the audience enjoys it as much as we do. My name is Jim Williams. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Influitive. For those of you not familiar with Influitive, we do advocate marketing software, advocate marketing platform. We work with a variety of companies to mobilize their customers to get out promoting and talk about the great products and services that they use every day. We've been running a series of these conversations over the last year with executives, marketing executives, CMOs, just to get the CMO viewpoint on the ever-changing world of marketing. And today I'm very, very excited to be joined by Chandar Pattabhiram. Did I say that right, Chandar?
You got it. It's pretty good.
From here on, it'll just be Chandar. But thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
Chandar, you've been in marketing for 20-something years in both public and private companies. He's current Vice President of Product and Corporate Marketing for Marketo, a brand we've all come to know and love, essential element of the marketing stack. You might say the foundational element of the marketing stack. It certainly is for us. But long history of marketing prior to that. You were the head of marketing at Badgeville, and you also did some product marketing, corporate marketing, and you're also VP of product and channel marketing for IBM's Cast Iron group, which is the leader in cloud integration. So thank you. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here and a great audience lined up. So happy to share my perspectives today.
Okay, so a couple of other housekeeping items, and then we'll just jump into it. So today's discussion is going to be 35, 40 minutes in length. A lot of the people that actually signed in here today actually participated in some of the pre-activity for today's event and asked a number of very interesting questions in our community. So thank you for doing that. Certainly gave me a lot to think about as part of the interview process, and we'll get to those questions. We'll recording this, of course, as we like to do. Not everyone can show up on time when they say they're going to. So the recording's available. You'll be able to download it after and share it with friends, etc. We'll make that available on our website and elsewhere. And I would be completely remiss if I did not go and thank the sponsors of today's event. Very big part of driving the audience and making these things happen. So I'll just run through the list of companies, again, all part of the marketing stack that helped us out. Inside View, Uber Flip, Marketo, thank you for helping us to promote it as well. Lookbook, Lattice Engines, ReadyTalk, Compost, SnapApp, and Vidyard. Thank you very much for your help in bringing the audience here today. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it because I always love these conversations. Chandar, let's start off with a little bit about your background. You can orient the audience to kind of your experience and what you've done. Tell us a little bit about where you've been. In addition, give some more color commentary to what I did in the intro. And specifically, I'm really interested in the product and corporate marketing and how those two functions come together under one person.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Happy to share that perspective. And just like you, I want to thank all the sponsors. They're all part of the marketing stack and great partners of ours as part of the LaunchPoint ecosystem that we have. So thank you again for this platform. Me, I've been a marketer for life. That's the way I like to call myself. I've been for the last 17 plus years in marketing. I had my formative years in management consulting in strategic services for about 4.5 years, and then been in marketing ever since. And I've done marketing, different kinds of marketing, small companies, fast-growing companies, large like IBM, and as well as, in application companies like Marketo, Badgeville, infrastructure companies. I've kind of been exposed to different kinds of B2B, B2B2C kind of different marketing. And then specifically around product and corporate marketing, it's interesting. The way we look at it at Marketo is we look at it as two big functions. There's a CMO, and then there's two broad functions. One is there is a demand gen engine on one area that's built on Marketo with operations and demand and have the machine going. And the other thing you can look at it as a broad circle is storytelling. Now, I've always had the belief that, people don't buy products, people buy stories, and it's establishing that emotive connection. And what we have done is that we have harmonized from an organizational perspective our storytelling across 3 different layers. One is storytelling at a brand level, and in terms of making that emotive connective at a brand. 2 is storytelling at a product and solution level, which is the second area of responsibility, which is around product and segment marketing. And 3 is telling customer stories on the value level, which is around customer marketing. So all those 3 legs of the stool are coming together to create a harmonized experience to ultimately have a consistent way of how we represent a brand and how we tell our stories. And that's how we kind of consolidated these 2 functions together, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. I think it's a really interesting way to organize too. We're going to talk a lot about how marketing is changing, both B2B and B2C, but that has implications on how you actually structure the team, the lines of authority, and how they work together. And it's an interesting approach. Can you tell me a little bit about storytelling? Because you just layered 3 different types of storytelling for different functions. But my broader question is, with the rise of scientific marketing or the quant marketing, et cetera, is it harder to find good storytellers? Certainly in B2B?
Yeah, that's always a challenge, right? The best path to a buyer's mind, and the best path to a buyer's wallet is through her heart and not her mind, right? And ultimately it's how do you make emotive connections. And so marketing is having this shift. We're going from soft science to more programmatic science, where we're having a lot of data. And Marketo itself was found on that founding principles of data-driven marketing, just like other companies in this space were. So that while that's important, we can lose the fundamental side of ultimately marketing is a battle of perceptions. You're trying to win the battle for the mind. It's not a battle of products. It's a battle for the mind. And the best brands that win the mind are the ones that are able to tell the best stories. And that's why we fundamentally believe that is a very, very important component, that we don't want to make it a lost art. And that's important for us. And that's important for every one of us B2B marketers out there. Let's focus, number one, on, how do we tell stories, and how do we tell stories in a consumable way that we can connect at an emotive level, not at an empirical level as much as an emotive level. And I think that's what the key to success is, for us to have that long-term relationships with our customers.
How, just on the storytelling thing again, how do you find a great storyteller when you're trying to build your team? How do you test that side? It's pretty easy to test, whether you know the science side, talk to me about your metrics and conversion rates and all that stuff, and you can quickly find out whether this candidate knows what they're talking about or is kind of pretending. How do you do it on the storytelling, on the emotive marketing?
Yeah, it's a tough thing, right? So I look at it from, does someone have an outside-in perspective versus an inside-out perspective, right? I always say you're either in the business of making candles or providing light. And a lot of people confuse things. They think they're in the business of making candles, when the reality is you're in the business of providing light, and that's the value. And when I look at hiring teams across, whether it's a brand, corporate marketing level, which at the product segment marketing level, customer marketing level, can you take that outside-in perspective and tell stories? Those who go to Home Depot looking for a shovel are actually looking to dig a hole. So can you talk about the value and actually what it matters from a customer perspective, as opposed to getting to feature function jargon, which nobody has in any time to consumer? And that's the primary lens I look for, the outside in versus the inside out perspective that somebody can bring into a storytelling role.
That's a great perspective. I like that. I like the providing light, not making candles. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the marketing profession, because we're starting to talk about, what makes a good marketer, full stack marketer, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I'll just jump right in. Last night, as I was thinking through the questions that I was going to ask today, I was reading a blog post from Jason Lemkin on SaaStr. And if you're not familiar with him, very successful.
Of course, yeah.
VC, CEO, twice CEO, big investor, thought leader, etc. But I was really shocked because he was writing about the importance of hiring good marketing early on in a company. And the blog post, essentially, the key point was that, it kind of was saying marketing as a department and as a function does not really breed leadership, right? Literally, that is the key point of the story. And the reason why is because they're not directly accountable for anything like salespeople or product, or he went through all these other examples. That just is lacking in marketing. Do you feel like that's still true today? Is that a bit outdated? How rapidly is that changing? And like, how does that opinion manifest itself in what Marketo does, like kind of the marketing mission for your company?
Yeah, so I would respectfully disagree with that, and on quite a few fronts, right? So I think that perception when marketing was a soft science is probably coming, and there was some validity to that. And it's always, we have the Rodney Dangerfield effect of, how do we prove our value, and a little bit of less respect in the organization. But as we have shifted as marketing as a function from kind of a cost driver to a revenue driver, or a cost spender to a revenue driver, and I think we've been able to get that seat at the table because, we can use technology to showcase our success and our value today. And then we do get that seat at the table and get that, RESPCT. In terms of being accountable for something. Just as in Marketo, for example, just as sales is accountable for their revenue, in certain sections of the business, 85% of the pipeline is accountable to coming from us. So there is as much accountability. Now, there's that one aspect of, okay, now I'm becoming a revenue driver, I'm getting more respect. Now, going back to your question on leadership, the challenge we've had historically as marketing is that, it's anywhere from coffee cups and T-shirts to strategy.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to span the spectrum going on with this side from coffee cup and T-shirts, that side of strategies, a diverse set of skill sets. There's no other function that is so diverse in terms of skill sets that you hire. And then how do you build natural leadership to that has been a challenge from one perspective. But I'll tell you what's working in our favor today to go do that. This is the golden age of the marketer, right? Sales has had its day. Just like baseball had its time, and now it's the NFL's golden age. It's kind of sales has had its day, when the buyer and the seller had all the power, with sales.
I'm looking for the tweets on this right now. Sales had its day. I want to see that getting tweeted out.
Yeah, sales has had its day. Now it's our turn. It's the golden age for the marketer, right? This is the NFL, the golden age of the NFL, and that's what I say. And the reason for that is pretty simple: is that the power has shifted from the seller to the buyer, and when the buyer has the power, sales can drive that relationship. Service has a sliver of that silo of the relationship. Product definitely has to be there. But that fundamental core steward of that customer journey, that person who can architect that experience for the customer, is marketing. And that's why, I passionately say it's a marketing first world in one sense, because marketing is becoming the steward of the journey. And in fact, we have this thing we've launched called CMOnation.com, where, my CEO just wrote about it, that the second most important executive in every company is a CMO, and she will be the second most important executive, because today's dynamics lend itself for that leadership coming primarily from marketing to be that architect of that. So I differ respectfully with that opinion, but it is a golden opportunity for us to do that. Now, there's a lot of challenges we got to solve, and in fact, I can talk about that later. But fundamentally, we got to go away from a siloed view of marketing to break down those walls and have and organize around the customer. But it gives us a great market dynamic opportunity to have natural leaders. I'll tell you, McDonald's, I was reading about it the other day, McDonald's, Audi, and Campbell's Soup, all their latest CEOs all came from marketing. So if that's example of Fortune 1000 companies driving marketing leadership, that's proof is in the pudding there.
I got it. I'm much more a fan of McDonald's. Unfortunately. Okay, that makes total sense. So do you feel like Marketo has a special kind of role in the emerging marketing discipline? Do you feel like you're a champion for the marketing profession as well? You've moved from systematizing marketing, providing great products and services, and have now moved to the idea of being the champion for marketing as a profession with your marketing first and marketing nation efforts. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of the, if you look at any technology company to be successful, technology alone cannot be your differentiator. And you got to have some higher level cause that you got to go drive for to ultimately have long-term differentiation. Because, if you just do features and functions, ultimately, people will, at some point in time, the competition will have as many, programmers at some point in time, and then they'll have features and functions, right? So you got to appeal to a higher cause, going back to emotively connecting at a brand level, right? And when we talk about, BMW as the ultimate driving machine, it doesn't matter whether it's the ultimate driving machine or we think it is, because they've connected with us at the emotive level. So going back to that, what we are trying to do is that, we are saying that we want to form that cool club, that tribal feeling, that cult of, it's not about making somebody a good Marketo user, that's the Maslow's hierarchy, that's on the lower level.
Yeah.
The higher level in the Maslow's hierarchy for us is, how do you make people great marketers? And how do you create this cool club? And we call that the marketing nation, of a vibrant community of marketers learning, sharing, and growing with each other, that ultimately technology becomes an enabler to that. And lucky that it's our technology. But ultimately, the altruistic mission here is better marketing makes a better world, as opposed to better Marketo makes a better world.
Right. Totally. Yep. It totally makes sense. So how do you guys execute on the marketing nation today? It seems like a lot of different touch points. You run big events, you run small city events, you have a community, you have an advocacy program, you have a lot of things going on. How do you coordinate those touch points to make the customer experience from Marketo a cohesive experience?
No, it's not easy. It's one of those challenges that we're continuing to learn, test, scale, and repeat. We are starting to have that, and quite honestly, we've looked at it in terms of let's design the experience outside in rather than inside out. And we want to present, like we're using Influitive today to drive. We have a very successful program, and I know we're on Influitive webinar, so I want to make sure that I don't come across too salesy for you guys. But at the same time, I will say that technologies like these have given us a single consistent view of how do you approach a customer and build advocacy programs on one end. On the other hand, from the marketing nation perspective, we've invested heavily in our community and provide that rich experience about how can they go become better marketers. If you go to our community today, the first thing is Marketing Central, nothing to do with Marketo, which is all the best practices about digital advertising and marketing and stuff like that they can learn. And by the way, there's a section on Marketo things. So that's the mindset has been around designing towards that altruistic effort as opposed to becoming just shoving product down somebody's throat.
And all this boils down to, I think, what you guys have been championing, right? You've been talking a lot about the notion of engagement marketing, right? So this idea of moving beyond, say, the first generation of changes in B2B marketing, which tend to happen all around the funnel and driving leads and lead generation and everything else, and trying to think about it more holistically across the life cycle. So how do you define engagement marketing, and how do you make that as much of a disciplined process as Marketo did with demand marketing?
Yeah, that's a
Chandar, it looks like at some point in answering this question, we lost your audio. I don't think I can hear you. I thought it was just me, but I think everyone else. Other people are having a hard time hearing you as well.
Can you hear me?
I can. And I'm really anticipating the answer because you were getting into it there and then lost audio.
Okay. Back?
You're back.
Okay. So let me start again. So the question again, in case people forgot the question, is about, well, what's our point of view on engagement marketing? What is it? Sure. The way we look at it is, if you Google Earth it and look at it over the last 20 years of what's happened, we've had mass marketing where we've been talking at people for a long time, whether it's advertising and all that good stuff that's happening. But I said that's like the frog in the hot water. It doesn't know it yet, but death is soon coming. But all of us B2B marketers on the phone, we've been smart. We've been sitting at it on the sideline. What we've done in the last 10 years, and Jim, you've been in that space with marketing automation, I've been in it for a long time, is we've gone to what I call transactional marketing. The last 10 years, we've focused on how do I get that customer to buy or that buyer to buy, which is all about leads, top of the funnel, how do I get ops, and how do I get alignment. But it's kind of been random acts of marketing or pieces, disconnected puzzle pieces. That may work in that era, but in today's era, here's what's happening, right? Customers have lots of choice, and the switching cost is low. They can cut the cord at any point in time. In such a world, worrying about the transaction doesn't work. It's about, you have to worry about the interaction. And that's really what engagement marketing is. And in 7 words, if I have to define what it is helping brands build long-term relationships with their customers. That's really what it is. Now, it sounds highfalutin. Yes, it's okay. Yes, it is. And what is the new concept here? The new concept here is that it's not new, right? 1996, Peppers and Rogers wrote a book saying the future of marketing is all about one-to-one relationships at scale.
Right.
The difference is 20 years later, we finally have technology that can let you do it at scale, and that you couldn't do earlier. Now, let me give you just quickly, okay, that sounds at the high level. How do you go execute on this at one more level down, right? So my guidance is, I'll give you 3 principles of what we mean by engagement marketing. Number 1 is we got to make a geometrical shift in our minds as B2B marketers. It's not about thinking about cones. It's about thinking about circles. And what I mean by that is it's not about filling the funnel. It's really about creating a virtuous circle of how do I acquire customers? How do I grow lifetime value? And how do I build as many advocates as possible who in turn influence new prospects and people? So it's kind of a virtuous circle, right? So that's one big thing about thinking long-term versus thinking transaction. The second thing about engagement marketing is it's about being dynamic and not prescriptive. And what I mean by that is, most of us marketers and the vendors and people like us are the fault for this, is we kind of this fallacy that let me help build customer journeys. The reality is marketers don't build customer journeys, customers do. And the job of marketers really is to be at every point of interaction the customer is, listen to them, using technology to listen, learn, and then scale over time on how you engage with them at every step in the journey. And that's the second fundamental shift. It's like going to a cocktail party and trying to, be prescriptive about what you're going to say to somebody you meet beforehand. Right. It never works. Right? It's got to be dynamic and interactive, right? And the third important thing is, you've got to think about it long term, and engaging them consistently wherever they are. And there's this big fallacy of multi-channel and omni-channel and stuff like that. The reality is, I use the word omni-channel. Most of us like to engage in 2 or 3 channels of our choice, and it's the job of technology to figure out which one we like and engage them continuously in a manner that's relevant to them over time. And all we're doing is providing technology to marketers to do that. So it's simply put, it's how do you humanize the experience? It's not about B2B or B2C. It's really about B2H, business to human, and using technology to do it at scale. That's really what it is.
So makes sense from high level perspective down to you get into kind of the 3 things that are shifting. But it significantly broadens the scope of operations for marketing from what we've seen in B2B, right? You got to be interacting with whole new stakeholders, I think. How do marketers manage that? What type of guidance are you providing to your audience, to the marketing nation? And how do you go from, okay, we have an agreement with sales and we're seeing things the same page and we know how it works and it's metricized and everything else. And now I need to do that perhaps with someone in product and someone on the customer success or customer experience side of the house and someone who might be running community and, all those events those are different touch points. Like, how do you start to get your arms around managing that experience?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it doesn't happen overnight, and it's a journey, and it is not a journey overnight. It happens over time. I think the first thing I would say is you got to organize around the customer and tear down those walls. And for example, I was talking to the CMO of one of our customers, and the team that works on acquisition and the team that works on cross-sell, upsell never even talks to each other. Right. And that's just fundamentally wrong because it's the same customer going through the whole journey. Right. Historically, it's been operating in silos. So we got to organize around the customer lifecycle. And we ourselves at Marketo are trying to do that, which is, how do we organize around? There's an acquisition set of teams, and then there is a cross-sell, upsell, retention, adoption teams. And how do we increase investment on the second side to make this entire seamless experience happen? Right. So that's one is something around organization and fundamentally rethinking that. And, just to give you additional color, if you want, the Harvard Business Review and Marketo just last week on my team, we just released Designing the Marketing Org of the Future. And it was something that we co-authored talking to 25 CMOs. It's in our CMO Nation, download for free. But you can that principle is exactly covered as organize around metrics that actually matter.
I can hear you there.
Jim,
I don't know
whether
whether there's some internet choppiness on your side or my side, but you froze up a bit
Jim,
on my side.
Yeah, sorry about that. So my point sorry about that. So my point number one was organize around the life cycle. Look at your team. Do you have anybody in your market team as a B2B marketer today driving cross-sell, upsell in a programmatic way? If the answer is no, go invest in one. Because it's going to be worth it. It costs 7 times more to acquire a customer than keep one, and retention becomes huge importance for us. So I would say go do that, go invest. Second is organize around metrics that matter. There's value metrics and engine room metrics like leads and stuff like that, but organize around 2 metrics. One is around how am I driving revenue and opportunities on the acquisition side, and lifetime value on the long cross-sell, upsell and side. So organize on how can I measure those metrics and hold yourself accountable to those metrics on 2. And 3 is smart, small, think fast and grow big, right? You got to solve this at different puzzle pieces rather than trying to solve it at one step. And we have, we have a methodology team that helps our customers go take this as a journey and go start here and then go do it. Not everybody is in this engagement market, this whole framework on day one, and we have customers, but it is a journey. But it starts with a mindset of thinking relationships.
So that makes sense.
Without
we've talked. It's funny, like in this conversation, we've talked a little bit about the type of people you need to have, the skill set, and how you organize. We've talked about the high level strategy around marketing of evolving from this kind of demand to engagement marketing, et cetera. So let's address some of the technology questions, right? You talked a little bit about the data and the metrics. Do you believe that Marketo or other platforms are going to evolve into being able to measure the signals on life cycle? As an example, it's really easy for me in my Marketo today to see exactly what people are doing and how they're responding to my campaigns, et cetera. But when I need to go and look at my lifetime value report, it's not easy for me to find that, right? Not to mention engagement as a customer, the cross-sell, upsell, whether they're attending those events and logging in the community. Like, how do you see that evolving as the technology stack?
Absolutely, it's absolutely key, and you're right. It's not easy, but it starts with designing. The reason it's not easy is our campaign design is very siloed and random acts of marketing in terms of disconnected puzzle pieces. The way we look at the different campaigns, we kind of have isolated as opposed to a continuous journey campaign that we do. But from our perspective, we absolutely, it's very key for us as engagement marketing as a higher umbrella is to provide dashboards and analytics that helps customers on 2 fronts. One is measurement and, showcasing value at every step of the journey. That's one, not just acquisition, but also retention and cross-sell. And 2, understand the attribution across all different touch points. Right? It is not single touch. We all know this as marketers, historically B2B marketers. We know first touch, we know last touch. The challenge is multi-touch. And it becomes a bigger challenge today when somebody is checking you out on Facebook or LinkedIn and trying to come into your Google. And then how do you kind of do attribution across all those third-party things, right? And that's a key investment area for us too. And just not Marketo, as other products that are out there, is, how do I provide that unified experience and the measurement of that unified experience?
So while we're talking about the technology, then and I think it's a good segue because I want to hear a little bit about how Marketo practices Marketo, right? So obviously data integration is a big part of it to get that unified view. You guys are not only developing your own platform, but you're using a variety of tools in your stack as well. How do you guys think about what is essential in your marketing stack? How do you yourself that go and evaluate technology and think about, is this something that we need to invest in because it's helped filling in one of those data gaps or helping us on the customer journey and life cycle, being in all those places? How do you go through that process internally at Marketo?
So the thinking is we drink our own champagne. The way we look at investing in technology for ourselves is the same way we consume technology too. So let me provide the paradigm for that. It's very simply that we believe that our job is to provide the most comprehensive marketing automation platform out there for orchestrating activities, for managing that, for driving a set of strategic analytics, for driving a personalized experience, and provide the most broad, comprehensive platform for that, right? And in addition, we believe in choice. We don't believe in a captive network suite, like there's some other products out there that say that I have to own the entire stack experience. We believe in choice, and I'll get to your answer on why that belief ultimately manifests into how we use Marketo. So, for example, when it comes to content, you mentioned Uberflip, you mentioned Compose, great partners of ours. And when it comes to leads, Inside View, and all the partners that you mentioned, when it comes to video, great partner for us. We want to give choice to our customers, just like when you have the iPhone. They don't mandate that you have to go use Safari as your browser. You can go use Chrome as your browser in an iPhone. So there's a core operations platform, and then there is a set of augmenting ecosystem through LaunchPoint that we can go and provide a seamlessly integrated experience. And for example, I was talking to CA the other day, Computer Associates, and they have 17 technologies with Marketo in the middle, with 17 technologies they're connecting across to make all these things come together as a marketing stack, right? So that's our fundamental belief, that it's not a captive suite approach. It's an open platform with a core set of capabilities. That then manifests itself into how we adopt Marketo as Marketo internally, right? So for example, we have Marketo for our core engagement orchestration. We use Inside View, we use Vidyard, we use stuff like for social, we use Hootsuite, for social. So we have an augmenting technologies for data, for content, for social, and all these different categories that augment the core orchestration platform. And that's the experience that we are providing. We are doing internally today as much as
that makes sense. So it's very similar, I think, to what many B2B marketers are experiencing as well. Like, how do you build on the core platform and make sure you're plugging in order to manage that experience? But what's the outcome? Like, how do you manage? How do you measure? You talked a little bit about some of the metrics, but how do you know whether you're providing that delightful experience across all the touch points? Can you give me some examples of where you guys have innovated a little bit in that customer journey and the engagement marketing to create the type of desired outcome that we're talking about here, like humanizing the marketing and being present, in that circle of interaction?
Yeah, so I think there's two parts to it. Is what outcome do you want to measure? And two is, how do you go drive engagement to measure that outcome? So maybe I'll try to split that answer into two parts. So the outcome we want to measure, the outcome we don't want to measure is we have gone away. Anybody says leads and MQLs and those kind of things, there's engine room metrics for a demand gen team. This is not a sales and marketing alignment metric. So we've killed all those in terms of how we align with sales. For us, it's really about aligning with sales on metrics that we commonly measure about, which is about revenue, which is about pipeline, and which is about opportunities, right? That's one fundamental shift in terms of, and we've been one of the pioneers in that, but historically as marketers, we want to go do that because then you have a common set of discussions that you're having. So that's engine room metrics versus value metrics with sales, and we've kind of aligned with that. The second thing we're trying to do is, then take that experience and aligning into lifetime value metrics. And how do you drive cross-sell? How do you drive upsell? And have a tangible set of metrics around that. And then have a team associated with that to go drive it both on the demand gen side and the sales side. Now, historically, sales has had it, demand gen hasn't. But we're trying to go create an orchestrated experience across. So just like acquisition marketing has its own set of metrics, and this one, retention and option marketing has its own set of teams doing that together. So that's alignment of teams and metrics on that. And the third piece is advocacy. So which is around how do we have tangible metrics on how many advocates we want to create. And, I have this thing about there's a 60-30-10 rule in advocacy. 60% are lurkers, 30% are likers, and 10% are lovers. And our goal is, we want to build deep relationships one-to-one with that 10%. But use technology like yours at scale to convert as many lurkers into lovers, and how many lurkers into likers and likers into lovers. So we have very tangible metrics on driving advocacy, and that's been really, really successful for us in the short term as we've kind of looked at it and go drive that. So that is the shift in terms of how do we do the metrics. And then in terms of the actual technology itself, we have a number of different ways to, we're trying to do. The fundamental thing, I'll go back and give you a long answer. The fundamental thing we're trying to do is when you come to our website, when you engage with us, we are trying to create the most personalized experience using, we have a product called RTP, real-time personalization, where we want to basically understand you. So if someone from Cisco comes in as a B2B marketer with someone from Merrill Lynch, there is no way you should be showing them the same content. How do you customize your content? How do you customize the experience based on personas and stuff is what we're trying to do.
Talk to me about the conversion between from liker to lover. Can you give me some examples that are non-digital, like not in digital examples of how you found you convert likers to lovers, like special treatment, attention. I'm curious about that, like that high touch model.
Yeah, I think you have to. I'll give you a couple of examples. I'll give you New Relic is a great example of a brand that's done it. And it's technology is one thing, but they've created a larger thing, which is about this whole data nerd. It's about creating that tribe. It's about creating that cool club. It's about creating that, some sort of what we call that, the tribal feeling in terms of coming together. So they've created this whole data nerd program of how do I get people together on a common cause and create that lovers of my brand together and convert my likers into lovers. And we've done that through Marketing Nation, and we're very lucky to have great marketers like the folks on the phone today to kind of feel authentically connected with the brand and provide the authenticity just like, New Relic has done. So my advice to the people is, if you take technology aside, can you align somebody towards a common cause and a common theme to create that association with brand? Because each one of your buyers is getting 3,000 messages a day, and they have very little attention span for any of this. So you have to connect at a more emotive or epic level.
It is a great message,
to a marketing
for sure.
Message level.
And actually, I think that's a pretty good message for us to leave on today. We kind of promised you it'd be about 35, 40 minutes, and we're right about that 40-minute mark today. Chandar, I just want to thank you again for taking your time. I think this was a great conversation. The goal of these things is to have a real conversation where you can learn a little bit from kind of a mentor peer. And so thank you for taking the time out.
Jim, thank you, and everybody on the webinar today. Thank you for your time today. And Chandar P is my Twitter @ChandarP, and my email is chand@marketo.com. So if you have any further questions,
thank you, and
any perspectives,
thank you from me as well to the audience. Appreciate you joining. As I said, this is recorded, so you can share it with your friends, colleagues, peers, family, mom, whatever works for you. Tune back in. We'll be doing another one of these next month. Bye-bye.